I think it's just loading on live now, Jacob, in 3, 2, 1, roughly. All right. Yes, we are live now for Success Sundays. I'm one of your hosts, Oscar Chavez.
And I'm Jacob Galea.
And we are very excited today to present how to be a catalyst for change. Now, I think as a leader, it is important that we are constantly changing every day, and we're providing an environment where people can grow, which means they're changing. So, Jacob, how can leaders be an effective catalyst for change in other people?
Yeah, look, I love this subject, especially have been blessed to train leaders for a living every single day. This is something that comes across my desk all the time, and we come across this in the boardroom a lot, Oscar. And, there's a couple of types of leaders. There's those leaders that think about change, those leaders that talk about change, and then those leaders that do change. Really leadership is about making an impact. Really leadership is about making things happen and leading by example. Too many leaders are leaders by title, not by actions, which we see a lot in the corporate world. They have a title, which is a leadership title, but they don't lead and have the actions to match the title. It's all good to be called a leader, but it is very different to manage a team, manage a business versus leading. We talk about going through the forest. You can lead a team through the forest, and you can get the machete and you can cut the way and you can lead the way. And a team wants to follow a leader. I've worked with some great leaders around the world, Oscar, from, A-League coaches to NFL guys and business people. And the real leaders don't just play the game. They get on the field and change it. And they lead by example. And I'm sure you've got plenty of examples like that. Yeah, Oscar?
Yeah, for sure. I really believe that you've got to be changing daily in order to get the best results, right? You mentioned the boardroom. I'll mention the boardroom as well. This week, we had someone on that after the boardroom episode, we went and I had a chat to him and I said, how was that? And he said, you know what? When you sit in front of 5 powerful people, all of your insecurities bubble up. The emotional stuff that you haven't dealt with as a kid starts to bubble up. And so that really goes to show that for you to grow what you're doing as a business owner, as a leader, if you want to grow your wealth, you've got to get used to having hard conversations with yourself from an emotional perspective. You've got to deal with that emotional baggage that we carry around. Otherwise, like he said, the guy that came on the boardroom, he said it stops you from achieving your full potential and stops you from achieving your dreams. So it's the small things, right? And I think it's our responsibility as leaders to help people change. If they've got a roadblock, if they've got a mindset, and I actually learned this from you, Jacob, just watching you interact with other people, and just like whenever you sense a negative mindset, you jump on them and you want to rip it out, right? So I've adopted that in my own practice as well. I'm like, no, we've got to up our game. We've got to help people change, man. I just love that.
Well, I think, look, it's responsibility as a leader to call people, shit, and to make sure that people aren't bluffing their way, because business today is tough, Oscar. Leadership today is tough. We're not in a thriving world. We're in a surviving world right now. So, having this commitment to oneself, I call it, where, having some declarations, some wisdom and declarations around oneself, around what you acknowledge to be truth, and living that truth is very important. So, as a coach and mentor, my role every day is to jump on people's false belief systems and say, hey, is that you or is that your belief system? Is that you or is that your ego? And I think that's our responsibility. It's not calling people out. It's, we rise by lifting others, by helping others rising above the crap that's below them. We can actually help them get to the full potential and possibility of who they're meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I come across a lot of people, Jacob. I think one of the things that I've been noticing a lot is a lack of clarity. So when someone's in that position when they sense they know something needs to change, but they just don't know how, or they're confused, what do you think some of the ways are that people can go, you know what, here's the next first natural step that I can take towards change?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I think number one is peer-to-peer communication and having a support mechanism, whether it's accountability buddy, Oscar, whether it's a mentor or coach or a platform where you can change and communicate to make you be better. That's first and foremost. I think, especially Australian business people, Oscar, we have to stop thinking that we know all the answers ourselves. It's okay to be stuck. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to seek advice. There are people out there that can help with all that. So, whether it's business, whether it's life, whether it's health, whether it's your body, there are people that you should be reaching out to that have the answers. And I think a lot of Australian business people, they try, especially businessmen, women are a lot better at this than men.
Yes.
A lot of businessmen like, oh, no, you know what, I'll be right. I don't need help. I'll get through this. Well, no, actually, what if you don't? And look, Oscar, there's a lot of businessmen out there at the moment who I'm talking to recently that are running really successful businesses. They right now are in a pretty dark place. They're almost, I won't say depressed, but they're really confused on what the future holds. And, how do you have clarity in a place, in a space like that? You've got to architecturally design and talk about what's going on. And I think peer-to-peer communication and peer-to-peer trust is something that we should be doing a lot more here in Australia in business.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I've found one of the keys to my success is really asking people for help. And I find, Jacob, that if I'm not stuck, I'm not growing at the rate I could be. Because when you're pushing hard against your potential, there's always going to be new things that you come across that you're not quite sure as to how to navigate these treacherous waters, right? If you're going to cross over the sea, you're going to hit some choppy water. And so it's our job as leaders all the time to be looking for opportunities for growth. And if we are growing, then we're going to hit choppy water, and we need people around us to really help us with our strategy. Otherwise, how do we know, right? We're so, we only have a very simple, plain view of the world, but we need other people around us to help. And I mean, we can get better at it from reading books and listening to podcasts and being diligent with growth and being diligent with getting around like-minded people. But fundamentally, there's a point that we all got to hit where we're just growing past our capacity, and we need coaches and leaders around us to really help us navigate that treacherous water. I think that's so important. The other thing that I think is really important, Jacob, is the courage. So some people in their business, they get to a certain point where they get comfortable, and then because they've been distracted from the stuff that actually needs to take place to grow their business, or business is going well and they think, you know what, now's a really good time to rebrand, and they take their foot off the pedal of the growth pedal and they go and fix all these things because it's comfortable. They get back in operations. They go and rebrand the website. Oh, let's go and do a CRM change. Let's go and change all this stuff in the back end. And they forget to push forward, and they stand still for a very long time. And that causes them a lot of conflict. So I think, if you boil it down to one concept, it's that courage to push forward and courage to always be doing things that you might not used to be doing, but doing them anyway.
Yeah, well said. I think, Oscar, that, if you look at the C's around leadership, if you want clarity, you got to be courageous, right? So the more courageous you get, the more clarity you get, because as you're more bold and as you go through that forest that's full and you cut your way through, you get clarity and you see the ocean cutting through at the end of the trees, right? So, it's a really good point. I think, look, for me, if you want to gain more clarity on what you're doing, is actually stop for a moment. Australian businessmen especially think they've always got to be on the go and they've always got to be busy. Hang on, slow down. Sometimes it's good to get a pen and paper and go and sit somewhere, and write down, all right, where am I at? Where have I been and where am I going? And get some clarity and some peace and quiet outside the boardroom, outside the business, and re-engineer your current position, because reflection is a very, very powerful tool. If you want to get clarity, whether it's forward or back clarity, where you've been or where you're going, you have to, in the present, you have to write down your current situation. Okay, am I clear, first of all, on where I'm at before? If you're not clear on where you're at, how can you be clear on where you're going? If you're not clear on where you've been, how can you be clear on where you're going? So for me, it's to just stop, do some reflection, do some writing, do some journaling, and understand where you've been, where you are, and break that down so then you can get a formula to understand where you're going.
Yep, absolutely. I love that, Jacob. And look, this is all we have time for today. Is there any closing remarks that you want to have, or any summaries you want to make?
I'm going to go with your one, courage. Be more courageous to get clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning into Success Sundays. If you've got topics for us to cover, please write them in the comments so that we know that we're adding value to your life. And come here so that we can prepare you for success, because that's what it's all about. We need each other to succeed. We can't succeed on our own. We need great people around us. So Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.